Okay, this video is about the Adobe Illustrator pen tool, kind of a beginner video. In the toolbar, if you click and hold, you're going to see that the pen tool has just the regular pen tool, the add anchor point tool, and delete anchor point tool, and anchor point tool. Okay, and I'm going to go back just the regular pen tool. And with the pen tool selected, you can go in your document and you can just click, and what you're doing is laying down anchor points. So using the pen tool, it can be as easy as this. I'm going to go all the way to the end and complete my path. When you complete your path, keep in mind that little circle at the bottom of the pen tool cursor lets you know that you've completed your path. Now that's pretty easy as far as the pen tool, but the pen tool can create curves. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that object. To create a curve, I'm going to lay down my initial anchor point. I'm going to go to some other place in my document and I'm going to click and pull my mouse. I'm clicking and pulling, and what this does is it creates a Bezier curve with handles. If I go to the next spot, I get this little rubber band kind of visual, and it's letting me know if I lay down my next point or anchor point, that's the curve that I'm going to achieve. So if I go down here and click, I do get that point. Okay, now it's telling me my next option is a line. I can click and create a line. If I want another curve, I'm going to click and pull out a Bezier curve. Okay, I'm going to just go through. Okay, the next one is letting me know if I go to this direction, this is how my curve would appear. If I go this direction, it'll appear here, and I'm going to go all the way to the end and complete that path, and I've got an object I created with the pen tool. Now I can go back with the direct selection tool. I can manipulate these anchor points by selecting them. That gives me my Bezier curve handles. I can make them shorter. I can make them bigger and adjust that curve. I can select them and I can move them around. Again, I can manipulate these handles, pulling them and closing them as I go. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that object. With the pen tool, if I click and hold my shift key down, I get a perfect horizontal line. If I go straight up, hold down my shift key, I get a perfect vertical line. Again, holding down my shift key won't even allow me to have anything but that straight line. However, if I go about 45 degrees, it'll actually click to 45 degrees. I'm hitting my shift key to accomplish that, and I've got 45 degrees. Same here, 45 degrees, and I can click. If I want a curve, I need to click and I need to pull out those Bezier curve handles. Again, this rubber band effect is letting me know what my next curve would look like, and I can click. Continuing on, clicking and pulling. If I no longer want the curve, I can go back to the last point that I selected. It gets rid of one of those handles, which would allow me to create a straight line again, and I can complete that path. Once you've got a path that is complete, you can always go in and you could add color to it. If I select it, I can go up to my color chip and I could add color. This is a complete path. I keep emphasizing that because making complete paths is important. Okay, now I'm in another document. As you can see, there's a T and there's a house here that I have locked down on 2 layers. I'm going to draw on this top layer that isn't locked down. Move that out of the way. So I'm going again to my pen tool, and this one, the T is made up of horizontal and vertical lines. So I'm going to hold down my shift key a lot. So I'm going to lay down my first anchor point, hold down my shift key. I'm going to actually keep my shift key held down because I want straight lines. Click, 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 and close that path. Okay. Now the house isn't made up of entirely straight lines. I want to create kind of an angle here, but not a 45-degree anchor. I'm sorry, not anchor, but angle. So I'm going to lay down my first initial anchor point here. I'm going to come up to the top of the roof, click, I'm going to move down the roof here to the chimney, click. I do have a straight line, so I am going to hold down my shift key, hold down my shift key for another straight line, and hold down my shift key. I'm going to complete the slope of the roof and click, 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 straight line, shift key, straight line, shift key, shift key, shift key as I'm clicking, and click, click, and I'm going to complete that path. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the add anchor point. Now I can go into any of these paths and I can add a point. Maybe I want to add a point right here. If I add an anchor point, I can then go to my direct selection tool and I can manipulate that point. Okay, so if you need an extra anchor point, you can do that. You can also delete an anchor point. So if I go to the delete anchor point, I can get rid of that. I can get rid of any anchor points that I want. Go over here and delete. Okay. Again, if you need to add those back in, you can just add an anchor point. I'll add one over here. I can go to my direct selection tool and I can manipulate those points. Move them around, adjust them, and so forth. All right, let's do something that has some curves now. Okay, in front of you, you should see a Volkswagen Beetle that I created guides for. I've locked down those guides. I actually created this with a sketch that I have hidden right now, so I turned off the eyeball. So I'm going to work on this top third layer right here. Going to go to my pen tool and I'm going to start right here. I'm going to lay down an anchor point. I want to curve here, so I'm going to start here and then I'm going to pull out a curve. When I'm happy with how the curve is appearing, I'm going to let go. The next curve that it wants to make, okay, it's not going to make a curve all the way that I want. So I'm just going to lay down a point here and I'm going to come down here and see if I can make a curve. And it looks a little bit straight there, so I'm not going to lay it down there. I'm going to lay it down here and I'm going to pull. Okay. Now the next curve is not what I want. I want something that's a little bit straighter. I don't want this curve, so if I go over the last point and click, it gets rid of one of those handles. So the next thing I can do is lay down a straight line, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to click. Now, by practice, you're going to know where you're going to lay down these lines. Should I lay down a line here or should I attempt to go all the way? I don't think it's a great idea to go all the way. So I'm going to go right here and I'm going to lay down a point and I'm going to pull. And I'm pulling my mouse towards me. Now the next curve, actually it's not too bad, but I don't want this little tail on it. So what I'm going to do is click the last anchor point to get rid of one of those handles. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click and pull to see if I can create the curve I want. I can. Next curve is not something I want. I actually want a straight line, so I'm going to click right over the end. Notice the icon at the bottom here. It's similar to the fourth icon in your toolbar. I'll come back and discuss that more, but just take note of that. I'm going to click on this point. I want a straight line, so I'm going to click. Now I want a curve, and I'm going to go halfway. So I'm going to go halfway in this wheel bed, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to pull. That looks pretty good. Now the next curve it wants, okay, it's not really perfect. If I'm not happy with that curve, I can get rid of one of those anchor points and create another curve. Or you could determine, well, maybe that's better than my original, so maybe I'll just leave that. The next point I want is a straight line, and since I didn't click and pull, my next option is a straight line, so I'm going to click. I want a straight line here, so I'm going to hold down my shift key. Okay, click. I'm at the wheel bed again. I'm going to go about halfway. I'm going to click and pull my mouse. Okay, looks pretty good. The next one it wants to achieve is not how I want it. That's way too much of a curve, and I don't want my points to end up here, my path to end up here, so I'm going to click on this last anchor point, gets rid of one of those handles, and I'm going to come down here and click and pull. Okay. Next one is a curve. Really not what I'm going for, so I'm going to click on my last anchor point, and then I'm going to come down here and click and pull. The next one actually is pretty good. It's showing me that is really what I want. So I'm just going to lay down the anchor point here. I'm going to click and pull to complete that path. Okay, I'm going to actually hide my guides a second here to see how it looks without the guides. Okay, in some places I actually could smooth it out a little bit, so I'm going to select it and I'm going to go to my smooth tool, click it again. I lost my selection, my smooth tool, and I can smooth that path out a little bit. Okay, actually it's pretty good. Maybe here a little bit. I'm going over this path with the smooth tool and it smoothed it out. All right, I'm going to turn that guide back on again. Now for the wheels, I really don't want to use the pen tool. I have much better tool here, the ellipse tool, and I can pull out that tire. Gonna move it over. Okay. Pull out the next tire as well. Another ellipse. Okay. Good. Now instead of doing this next one, I definitely would grab both of these, selecting them both, holding down my shift key, and I would go edit, copy, edit, paste. I'm going to manipulate some of these anchor points, but as I'm looking at this, this is definitely something I would want to do with the rectangle tool. For this object here, I would start here, straight line. Okay, so maybe I can go all the way. Again, by practice, you're going to be able to tell which is the best place to lay down a point. I'm going to click and pull. Yep, that's pretty good. The next one, that's probably even better than my original guide. I'm going to leave that be. I'm going to click. Now this isn't, where should I lay down the point? I'm actually just going to go right here. I'm going to click and pull. And I actually like where the rubber band is taking me, so I'm going to lay that down. Oop, I didn't quite get the end of the point there. There we go. Make sure that you're seeing that circle at the end so you know you've created a complete path. Actually, look, if I zoom in here, it looks like I created way too many anchor points here. And I'll use my negative to get rid of one of these. I'm not quite sure which one I want to get rid of. It's probably this one, so I'm going to click there. Now, I can go back with my direct selection tool. I can select that anchor point and I can move it up. Okay, with the last tool in the toolbar, the anchor point tool, it can change a corner into a Bezier curve. So if I click and pull, I can pull out anchor points. Not anchor points, but these handles, if I want this to be a curve. So it changes how the path, a corner path is laid. Again, clicking and pulling, I could do the same thing here because it is a corner. I could click and pull out anchor points. Okay, that's the beginner's guide to the pen tool.